There are moments in your life that do not announce themselves with thunder or tragedy. They arrive quietly, inside ordinary days, through the smallest exchanges, beneath the surface of a smile. Yet these are the moments that can break you. Carl Jung called them thresholds of psychic dissolution, points so psychologically dangerous that they can destroy your sense of self, your trust in others, and your faith in the meaning of connection. You will not see them coming. You will simply wake up one morning and feel something inside you slipping. The light you used to give so easily now feels heavy. The empathy that once made you human now feels like your greatest vulnerability. You begin to wonder, how do people survive this? This is not weakness. It is initiation. Jung believed that certain souls, those who feel too deeply, who sense what others cannot, are forced to face 3 deadly moments in life. Moments when empathy itself becomes the battlefield. You will recognize them not by chaos, but by silence. Not by hatred, but by the slow erosion of your own boundaries. Tonight, we will walk through those 3 thresholds together. The recognition of non-reciprocity, the dissolution of self, and the revelation of fundamental aloneness. And through Jung's survival protocol, you will learn not just how to survive them, but how to emerge tempered, awake, and whole. Let this be your initiation into becoming. Let your body rest. Let your thoughts drift. Tonight, we will speak of the moments that break you, quietly. Have you ever wondered why the kindest hearts so often feel the heaviest? Why the ones who see others most clearly are the ones who are most easily forgotten? There is a certain kind of exhaustion that no sleep can cure. The exhaustion of the soul that has given too much, listened too long, and been met with silence. It is the weight of unseen giving. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." For the empath, this acceptance often begins in heartbreak, not the kind that comes from betrayal, but from realization. The realization that the love, patience, and understanding you have offered so freely may never return to you in the same way. You have been the listener, the healer, the calm in someone else's storm. And yet, when your own heart trembles, the world falls strangely quiet. You start to notice the imbalance, how easily people come to you when they need light, but how few stay to keep you warm. It is not cruelty, it is blindness. Most people cannot see the depth of what they're being given. Jung called this the tragedy of psychic permeability, the porous boundary between the empath's soul and the world's endless hunger. It does not happen all at once. The erosion begins slowly. 1,000 small moments where you bite your tongue, where you say, "It's okay," when it is not, where you absorb what others cannot face. You begin to disappear in your own kindness. And then one day, you wake up and realize you are surrounded by people, yet profoundly alone. There is no fight, no explosion, no grand event. Only the quiet ache of imbalance, the invisible price of feeling deeply in a world that rarely notices. Jung described it as standing on the threshold of psychic dissolution, the moment when empathy, once a bridge to others, begins to drown you in their emotions. But let us not turn away from this silence. Sit with it for a moment. Breathe into it. Notice the ache behind your chest, the familiar tension that whispers, "If I just give a little more, they will finally see me." Oh, this is the illusion every empath must face. The belief that love is a transaction, that if you pour enough understanding into others, it will eventually come back to you. It will not. And that truth, though painful, is sacred. Because beneath that pain lies the first awakening. When you realize that your worth does not depend on being needed, and that empathy without boundaries is self-erasure. Jung wrote, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." And this is the first quiet step inward, away from seeking mirrors in others and toward discovering your own reflection. Imagine for a moment a light falling into the ocean. It shines, it reaches, it gives itself to the waves. But the sea does not reflect it back. The light does not stop shining. It simply learns that its beauty is not measured by who notices it. The empath's journey begins here, in the acceptance that not everyone will meet you where you stand. Some will take what you offer without ever realizing the cost. Some will love your warmth without ever feeling the fire that keeps it alive. But this does not make your giving wrong. It makes it human. Still, there is danger in unguarded empathy. Jung warned that without conscious discrimination, the ability to discern who can reciprocate and who cannot, the empath risks what he called psychic inflation and deflation. You rise on the hope of being understood, only to collapse when that hope is unmet. It is a cycle of emotional breathing that never fills the lungs. To break this pattern, you must do something that feels almost unnatural. You must pause. You must stop pouring yourself into everyone who reaches for your light. Not because you are cold, but because you are finite. You are not the ocean. You are the flame, and flames need air. Take a slow breath in. Feel the space within you expand, not for someone else, but for yourself. Let the silence between breaths remind you that giving and receiving are not the same act. This is what Jung called the removal of projections. You have been projecting your own emotional depth onto others, assuming they feel as you do, that they understand as you understand. But not everyone has the same capacity for empathy. Some people do not hear the music you live by. It is not your job to teach them the melody. It is your job to keep dancing even if no one hears the song. So tonight, let the imbalance reveal its lesson. Let the silence speak. You are not being punished for your kindness. You're being refined by it. The world is showing you where your energy belongs and where it does not. There will always be those who cannot return what you give. That does not mean you have failed. It simply means they are not your mirror. You are allowed to rest now, to stop explaining, to stop carrying the weight of unseen giving. Because even the brightest stars burn silently when no one looks up, and still they shine. And yet, after all the giving, after all the nights spent being the quiet strength in other people's storms, something begins to shift. You start to feel the subtle ache of realization that perhaps what you thought was mutual understanding was, in truth, a reflection of your own heart shining back at you. You have been holding up a mirror made from your own compassion, and others have only seen their faces in it, never yours. This is where Carl Jung's mirror appears. He once wrote about a patient, a woman who had spent years in a friendship built on what she believed was deep emotional reciprocity. She was the listener, the comforter, the calm center. And she truly believed her friend felt the same way, that their connection was built on mutual empathy. But one day, when life finally pressed too hard and she reached out for help, her friend turned away. There was no cruelty in it, just a quiet absence, a quick change of subject, a silence that said more than words ever could. In Jung's journals, he described her revelation as devastating, a collapse of an inner world. She told him, "I thought she saw me. I thought she understood." And Jung, listening quietly, recognized this as a critical moment, what he called the removal of projection. You see, projection is not always about what we dislike in others. Sometimes it is about what we most beautifully believe. We project our own capacity for depth, empathy, and understanding onto the people we love, assuming they feel as we do, that they care with the same intensity, that they listen with the same reverence. It is not arrogance, it is innocence. It is the natural belief that others share the same emotional language. But one day, that mirror cracks. And when it does not shatter loudly. It breaks in silence. The shattering is internal. A soft implosion where your illusions fall like dust inside you. This is not just heartbreak. It is revelation. You begin to see that what you thought was a reflection of shared understanding was, in fact, your own light, bouncing back from a surface that could never hold it. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And this is that moment when you see your unconscious assumptions for what they are. The unconscious hope that if you love deeply enough, the world will love you in the same way. It will not. And yet, there is beauty in that truth. Because now you are seeing clearly, maybe for the first time. The illusion is gone. The mirror is broken, but what remains is real. Take a breath. Breathe. You are not wrong for feeling deeply. You are simply speaking a language they never learned. This realization hurts. Yes, it is supposed to. The shattering of projection is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to awaken you. The pain you feel is not punishment. It is the sound of false expectations collapsing so that authentic seeing can begin. You start to notice how often your empathy has been one-sided. How many times you have filled the silence with understanding that was never asked for, never returned. But instead of bitterness, something softer begins to grow. Discernment, awareness, the quiet strength that comes when you stop demanding mirrors and start accepting reflections for what they are. Jung compared this process to seeing through water for the first time. At first, all you notice are ripples, distortions, waves. But when the surface calms, the depth becomes visible. You realize that what you thought was endless connection was often shallow imitation, that some people can only meet you at the surface because they have never learned to breathe underwater. And that is okay. You are not here to drown trying to teach them. You are here to breathe in your own element, to see through the surface, not to fix it. In his book, Modern Man in Search of a Soul, Jung wrote about this very pattern. We do not see others as they are, but as we are, because we see through the veil of our own soul. That veil, the empath's projection, must eventually fall. And when it does, clarity replaces confusion. You begin to separate perception from reality, fantasy from truth, your giving from their capacity to receive. This is the moment you stop trying to make others feel like you. This is where empathy transforms into wisdom. It is the first act of psychological adulthood, seeing the limits of others without resentment. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine standing before a mirror that suddenly stops reflecting. There is no image of you anymore, only the cool glass. At first, panic rises. Who am I if I cannot see myself in others? But then, slowly, you realize your reflection was never gone. It has simply moved inward. You are beginning to see yourself, not through someone else's gaze, but through your own. That is what Jung's mirror teaches. That empathy without self-awareness becomes blindness, but empathy with awareness becomes light. So as you breathe tonight, let the broken pieces of that mirror rest where they fall. You do not need to pick them up. You do not need to make them whole again. They have served their purpose. You are not broken because you believed in others too much. You are simply becoming conscious. And in that consciousness lies your freedom. The quiet liberation of seeing clearly and still choosing to love, not because others were reflected back, but because it is your nature to shine. Remember Jung's words. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And this shattering of illusion is where that privilege begins. Now, take another breath. Feel the stillness after the mirrors fall. The silence is not emptiness. It is truth, waiting to be seen. When the mirror finally breaks, there is silence. At first it feels like loss, a quiet collapse inside you. But if you listen closely, beneath that silence is something new. A softness, a beginning. You start to see that not everyone is meant to meet you at the same depth, and that this is not cruelty. It is nature. This is where healing begins. Carl Jung called this step conscious discrimination, the art of recognizing where to give your light and where to protect it. He wrote, "The greatest burden the conscious personality can bear is the unconscious demand that all relationships be equal in depth and reciprocity." This is not nature's way. It sounds simple, but for the empath, this is one of the hardest lessons to learn. You have been conditioned to believe that love means giving endlessly, that compassion should have no boundary, that understanding must always be offered. But what Jung discovered through decades of observation was that empathy without discernment is self-destruction. Not all ground can grow life, and as he put it, you cannot plant orchids in desert soil. Pause for a moment and picture that. You are the gardener. Your empathy is the seed. The soil is the human soul before you. Some earth is fertile, rich, receptive. Other ground is dry, cracked, unable to hold what you give. The wise gardener does not hate the desert. They simply plant elsewhere. This is what conscious discrimination truly means. Not judgment, not bitterness, but clarity. The ability to see where your energy will flourish and where it will be lost. You may still give, but give where life can return to you. Take a breath here. Feel the relief of that truth. Notice how it softens the edges of your exhaustion. You are allowed to be selective. You are allowed to protect what is sacred within you. In Jung's own language, this practice was an act of individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating awareness. When you discern with consciousness, you step out of unconscious identification with others. You stop confusing the emptiness with your purpose. There is peace in that separation. For too long, you may have believed that being spiritual, being kind, being good, meant being endlessly available. But Jung would remind you that differentiation, the recognition of boundaries, is not the opposite of love. It is the foundation of real connection. Think of it this way. The sun shines on everything, but not everything grows. Some things are not ready. Some things are not meant to. The sun does not dim itself. It simply continues its course, knowing the seasons will decide what blooms. So too must you. This is the spiritual maturity that comes after the breaking of projection. The moment when you stop taking others' incapacity personally. You no longer ask, why can they not love me the way I love them? Instead, you whisper, they love as they can, and I must give where my light is truly seen. That shift changes everything. The bitterness fades. The need to fix or to prove dissolves. You begin to accept what Jung called the diversity of psychic capacity, that people stand at different stages of development, and to expect equality and empathy is to fight the laws of nature. He observed this in his patients again and again. The ones who survived emotional burnout were not those who stopped caring, but those who learned to care wisely. They developed a rhythm of giving that was sustainable, not driven by guilt, but guided by awareness. As Jung wrote, the wise person knows the difference. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine your own life as a garden. See the people around you as different kinds of soil. Some are moist and fertile, ready to nourish the seeds you offer. Others are dry, unable to receive, no matter how much you pour. In the past, you may have tried harder, watering the desert with your tears, hoping something might bloom. But deserts are not meant for orchids. They have their own quiet beauty, the resilience of survival, the sculpted silence of stillness. But they are not your home. The world doesn't need you everywhere, only where you can bloom. Say that again in your mind. Let it settle like warm air in your chest. The world doesn't need you everywhere, only where you can bloom. This is not selfishness. It is self-respect. When you practice conscious discrimination, you begin to reclaim your empathy as a gift instead of a wound. You no longer chase reciprocity in barren places. You stop mistaking emotional unavailability for a test you must pass. You begin to redirect your care toward those who can meet it with presence. And when you do, something changes inside you. The exhaustion lifts. The quiet resentment that once clung to your kindness begins to fade. In its place grows peace, the kind that does not depend on being understood, but on being true to yourself. Jung described this as the movement from inflation and deflation, the swinging between overgiving and despair into balance. You no longer rise and fall on other people's responses. You remain centered in your own soil. So tonight, let this be your quiet practice. Before you give, pause. Before you reach, breathe. Ask yourself, is this soil alive? Can what I give here return to me in some way? In gratitude, in growth, in shared presence? If the answer is no, do not give less love. Give it elsewhere. It takes courage to do this, to walk away from dry ground, to stop trying to make barren places bloom. But in time, you will see. This is how empathy becomes sustainable. This is how you honor both your depth and your limits. You do not need to shine in every room. You do not need to be the healer in every story. You only need to be where your light can truly live. So breathe deeply now. Feel the warmth of your own heart returning to you. The world is vast, and somewhere out there, the right soil is waiting. The people who can see you, who can meet you, who can water your spirit as you have watered theirs. They exist. You just have to stop scattering your seeds in places that cannot receive them. And when you finally do, when you begin to plant wisely, to give consciously, you will notice something extraordinary. Your garden would start to bloom again. The colors will return. The balance will return. The peace will return. Because this is the secret Jung left for those who feel too deeply. That empathy, guided by awareness, does not drain you. It nourishes you. And in that nourishment, you begin to grow. Quietly, beautifully, and without apology. You have learned slowly how to give only where life can return to you. You have felt the peace of planting in the right soil, the relief of no longer scattering your energy into emptiness. But healing, like everything in Jung's world, moves in spirals, not straight lines. Because once you stop overgiving, another truth begins to rise from the silence. If you are not what others need you to be, then who are you? This is the beginning of the second threshold, the slow, quiet exhaustion of always becoming someone else. Take a breath. Imagine standing in a long, dimly lit corridor lined with mirrors. Each mirror reflects a different version of you. The friend who always listens, the colleague who never says no, the child who makes peace, the partner who keeps things calm. You walk past each one, feeling both recognition and distance. Every reflection looks like you, but none of them feels like home. This is the shapeshifter's weariness, the fatigue of constant adaptation. Carl Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to face the world. In 2 essays on analytical psychology, he wrote, "The persona is a complicated system of relations between individual consciousness and society. Fittingly enough, a kind of mask, designed on the one hand to make a definite impression upon others, and on the other to conceal the true nature of the individual. You have spent years perfecting this mask. It has protected you, helped you survive, helped you belong. You have learned to read every room, to become what each person needs until you vanish. There is a strange kind of safety in being liked by everyone. It feels like connection, but it is actually containment. You learn how to adjust your tone, your smile, even your opinions, just enough to stay within the comfort zone of others. But deep down, a question begins to echo. If they only love the version of me that pleases them, do they love me at all? This is not vanity. It is the existential hunger of the self to be seen. Jung believed that one of the greatest dangers to the human psyche was over-identification with the persona. When the mask becomes fused with the face, the real self, the ego in its authentic form, begins to dissolve. He wrote, "The persona is a semblance, a two-dimensional reality to be distinguished from the three-dimensional person. You can perform kindness, perform confidence, perform empathy. But the performance, no matter how flawless, cannot replace presence. You start to feel the symptoms of this weariness in your body, the tightness in your chest when you smile too long, the fatigue that settles in after small talk, the sense that you have been moving through life in a kind of emotional hologram, visible, functional, but somehow hollow." Jung once said, "The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases." And yet, you have been trying to wear everyone's shoes, to fit every situation, to carry every expectation, until your own shape has blurred into 1,000 fragments. Close your eyes for a moment Feel that heaviness, that quiet confusion between who you are and who you have been performing to be. There is no anger here, only fatigue, the deep, ancient tiredness of someone who has lived too many lives within one skin. You begin to sense the cost of constant adjustment. Every time you bend to fit, something small within you breaks. Every time you silence your truth to protect another's comfort, your inner voice fades a little more. And soon, the silence inside becomes unbearable. It is here, in this stillness, that you start to notice the gap between presence and performance. The person others see, articulate, calm, composed, and the person you meet in the mirror at night, the one who wonders, if they take away all the roles I play, who would be left standing? That question is not rhetorical, it is sacred, because asking it means you are awakening. You are beginning to feel the pressure of individuation, the process Jung described as becoming one's own self. It is not about rejecting the world, but about meeting it from your center rather than your masks. The challenge, however, is that the persona does not fall away easily. It is made of habits, obligations, memories of approval. It is made of survival. When you start to remove it, even gently, you might feel naked, vulnerable, uncertain, exposed. You may even grieve it. After all, this shape-shifting self has helped you belong. It has kept you safe. But belonging bought with self-erasure is not belonging. It is dependency. So tonight, as you breathe, allow yourself to feel the ache of all the faces you have worn. Do not rush to strip them off. Just notice them. Each one tells a story of love, of fear, of adaptation, and each one has led you here to this moment of clarity. Jung wrote, "We meet ourselves time and again in 1,000 disguises on the path of life. And perhaps this moment, this weariness, is not a failure, but a reunion. The reunion between the one you show to the world and the one who has been waiting quietly behind the curtain. It takes courage to stand still when the world demands a performance. It takes even more to let yourself be seen without one. But this is the only way back to your authentic center, to stop performing empathy and start embodying it. You may not yet know who you are without the masks. That is okay. For now, it is enough to admit that you are tired. Tired of editing yourself to fit. Tired of being the peacekeeper, tired of managing other people's emotions while neglecting your own. In that weariness lies the first whisper of freedom. Because when exhaustion becomes unbearable, something within you finally says, enough. And that enough, whispered quietly in the dark, is not resignation. It is the beginning of remembering. Remember this as you rest tonight. The self you are trying to find has never left you. It is simply buried under layers of adaptation. And every moment of awareness, every sigh, every pause, every breath uncovers it a little more. So breathe deeply now. Let the mirrors fade. Let the reflections soften until only one remains. The one that looks back at you with quiet knowing. You are still here. And that, as Jung would say, is the beginning of individuation. The slow, sacred return to the person you were before the world told you who to be. You have stood before the mirrors long enough. You have seen the 1,000 faces you have worn. The helper, the peacekeeper, the listener, the strong one. You have felt their weight, their usefulness, and their quiet exhaustion. But now, a deeper truth begins to surface. It is not just that you wear the mask. It is that somewhere along the way, you started to believe the mask was you. This, Jung warned, is the most dangerous trap of all. He called it the persona trap, the moment when the protective identity we build for the world fuses with our sense of self. In 2 essays on analytical psychology, Jung described it clearly. The persona is that which in reality one is not, but which oneself, as well as others, think one is. At first, the persona is necessary. It allows us to function, to connect, to adapt. It is the polite smile in public, the voice of reason in conflict, the professional composure that helps us survive. But the danger begins when we start mistaking this social performance for the entirety of who we are. You have spent years refining that performance, becoming reliable, calm, likable, the one who never causes waves. You have built your life around maintaining harmony, and yet, deep inside, a quiet voice asks, when did I stop being real? Jung wrote that the ego dissolution, the breakdown of authentic selfhood, begins not in chaos, but in adaptation. It begins when the outer image becomes so strong that the inner voice fades. The more we invest in the mask, the less we recognize the face beneath it. Sometimes the bravest act is to remove the smile that keeps you safe. Take a breath. Feel how simple and heavy that sentence is. For the empath, the thought of disappointing others, of being misunderstood, feels almost unbearable. You have built your identity around being what others need. But Jung would tell you, that is not individuation. That is imprisonment. He once warned, the world will ask you who you are, and if you do not know, the world will tell you. It is a haunted truth. The world loves the version of you that serves its needs. The endlessly kind, endlessly available, endlessly accommodating self. But what happens when that performance becomes too tight? When it starts to suffocate the living, breathing person underneath? Imagine a lake at dawn. The water is still and a mask floats upon its surface, smooth, smiling, undisturbed. Beneath it lies your true face, quiet and waiting, unseen by the world, unseen even by you. The mask has been there so long that it feels like your skin, but deep below, something stirs, the authentic self, longing to breathe again. This is what Jung himself lived through after his break with Freud. For years, Jung had built his identity around their collaboration. He admired Freud, depended on his approval, shaped his ideas to maintain the bond. In his memoir, Memories, Dreams, Reflections, Jung confessed that after their split, he entered a profound crisis. Not intellectual, but existential. He wrote, I was seized by an overwhelming depression. I no longer knew who I really was or what I stood for. He realized that much of his public self, the persona of the loyal disciple, had been constructed to protect the relationship, not to serve truth. When that bond ended, the mask collapsed, and the emptiness beneath it was terrifying. But Jung did not run from that emptiness. He sat with it. He let the false identity fall away. He began to listen to what emerged from within. And it was from that darkness that his greatest ideas were born. The concept of individuation, the shadow, and the sacred work of integrating the unconscious. He learned that the mask must be worn lightly, never believed in completely. The persona is not evil. It is a tool. It helps you survive the world. But it must not rule you. Because the moment you believe the mask is real, you begin to disappear behind it. You lose the ability to distinguish between who you are and who you pretend to be. Breathe softly now. Feel that recognition within yourself, the part of you that smiles through exhaustion, the part that agrees to things you do not want, the part that says, "I'm fine," when you are anything but. Those are the small betrayals that keep the mask in place. And yet, Jung would not have you rip it off in rebellion. He would ask you to remove it gently, with compassion, to meet the face beneath it, not with shame, but with curiosity. To look in the mirror not as a performer, but as an observer. He once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." This pain, the ache of realizing how far you have drifted from yourself, is not a punishment. It is the price of awakening. If you listen closely, you can feel that awakening beginning even now. Beneath the surface performance, your authentic voice whispers. It is hesitant, unsure, but it is alive. It asks small questions. What do I really want? What do I really feel? Do not rush to answer. Just let the questions hang in the air like morning mist. They will guide you back, slowly, to your real center. The moment you stop living to be understood, you start living to be true. And that is where wholeness begins. The mask may still float on the surface for a while. You will still wear it in the world, as we all must. But now you will know it for what it is. A role, not a definition. You can take it off when you come home. You can breathe beneath it. Jung's warning about a persona is not a condemnation of society. It is an invitation to balance, to live in both worlds, the outer and the inner, without losing yourself to either. As he wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." So tonight, as you rest, imagine that lake again. Watch the mask drift away on the water's surface. Do not chase it. Do not cling to it. Beneath it, your true reflection waits, patient, kind, radiant in its quiet authenticity. Look at it. Recognize it. Remember it. And when the morning comes, wear the mask if you must, but never forget the face underneath. For sometimes, the bravest act is not to smile through the pain, but to remove the smile that keeps you safe. When the mask finally drifts away, what remains is quiet. Not the kind of silence that feels empty, but the kind that feels full of something you have not touched in a very long time. Yourself. You have spent years speaking through personas, adjusting your voice to match the expectations of others. Now, without the mask, the air feels strange, too still, too open. You are unsure of what to say or who is even listening. But somewhere inside that stillness, a voice begins to whisper. It is faint but real. This is where Carl Jung's practice of active imagination begins. A method not of thinking, but of listening inwardly. Jung described it as a dialogue with the different parts of the psyche, a meeting with what is hidden within. It is both a meditation and a conversation, an art of remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. He wrote in the Red Book, "My soul spoke to me, and I answered. My soul said, 'Give me the time to speak, and do not be impatient.' Tonight, give yourself that time. Sit quietly. Let the breath settle. And when the surface of your mind becomes still, imagine standing before a calm lake, the same one where the mask once floated. The water is smooth now, reflecting not the false smile of adaptation, but the depth beneath it. Drop a single question into its surface. What do you actually want? Not what others want from you, not what the world rewards, not even what you think you should want. Just what do you actually want? Watch the ripples spread. Feel the question echo through the body. Sometimes the first answer is silence. Sometimes it is a memory. A moment when you felt alive and did not have to earn it. Jung called this process making the unconscious conscious. It is how the forgotten parts of you, the dreamer, the artist, the child who believed, find their way back into awareness. Through active imagination, you allow the psyche to speak in its own language, symbols, emotions, images, fragments of memory. This is not fantasy, it is participation. Jung believed that imagination, when approached consciously, is the bridge between the ego and the deeper self, the totality of who you are. It is not about escaping reality, but about enlarging it. He wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." And so you listen. Perhaps you see a door in your mind, one you have walked past many times but never opened. You approach it slowly, and from behind it comes the faint sound of your own voice, long ignored. You open the door, and the room inside feels both familiar and forgotten. There are objects on the shelves, fragments of your life, moments when you felt real, desires you once buried under obligation. You sit across from yourself, not as critic, but as companion. You do not ask, "What's wrong with me?" You ask, "What have I not been hearing?" That is the art of remembering. In this quiet inner dialogue, you begin to realize that the self you have been searching for has never been lost, only unheard. It has been speaking softly beneath the noise of adaptation. Every sigh, every moment of longing, every quiet resentment was not weakness. It was your soul asking to be remembered. Take a deep breath here. Let the truth move through you like warm air. You are allowed to want more than survival. You are allowed to be more than what is useful to others. You are allowed to be whole. Jung used to guide his patients through the same practice, asking them to visualize their inner figures, the neglected child, the wise elder, the inner critic, the creative soul, and to speak with them not as illusions, but as living voices within. Through these conversations, fragments of the psyche began to reunite. He described this process as a psychic reconciliation. The dialogue with the unconscious is a living relationship. What is separated is brought together again. This is the purpose of active imagination, not perfection, not control, but integration. To sit with every part of yourself, the one who smiles too much, the one who hides, the one who dreams, and say, "I see you, I hear you, you can come home now." There is something profoundly healing in that moment. You no longer feel like a collection of fragments. You begin to sense continuity again, a thread connecting all versions of you through time. The tension that once filled your body starts to ease. The mind, once cluttered with performance, begins to rest. You do not need to fix yourself tonight. You only need to listen. Imagine again the lake, calm, still, infinite. Above it, the moon casts a silver path of light. A drop of water falls, soft, deliberate, and ripples across the surface. That drop is your truth, your voice, your essence. You realize you do not need to shout to hear it. You only need to become a patient listener to your own silence. Jung wrote, "The soul speaks in images that the heart understands, but the intellect cannot translate. So let your heart translate now." What image arises when you think of peace? What color feels like home? What memory still breathes within you when everything else grows quiet? These are not random. They are messages, soft echoes from your inner life, reminding you of who you are. When you begin to trust these whispers, something sacred happens. You stop waiting for the world to recognize you. You start recognizing yourself. The loneliness that once haunted you begins to shift into solitude, a space that is not empty, but alive. You find that you no longer fear silence. You crave it, because within that silence, you meet the one person who has never left you, your true self. Breathe in deeply. Let that realization settle. Feel the warmth of self-compassion spreading slowly through your chest. You have spent so long trying to earn your place in the world. Now, for the first time, you are simply allowing yourself to be. And this quiet return to yourself is what Jung meant by wholeness. Not perfection, not escape. Wholeness. So as you drift towards sleep, remember, you are not lost. You are remembering. You are not broken. You are integrating. And the voice you hear within you is not an illusion. It is the beginning of homecoming. As Jung said, to recover yourself, you must become a patient listener to your own silence. Tonight, let that silence hold you, and let yourself rest in the most sacred act of all, the art of remembering yourself. After the quiet work of remembering yourself, there comes a stillness that feels different. It is not the peace of resolution, but the calm that follows a deep awakening. You begin to live more honestly, more inwardly. You hear your own voice again. You start to recognize your real needs, your limits, your truth. But soon, another realization arrives, subtle at first, then sharp like a cold wind through an open window. You notice that even as you grow more authentic, even as you love more deeply and speak more honestly, there remains a distance no one can cross. And that distance is consciousness itself. Jung called it the unbridgeable gap between souls. It is not a failure of love or empathy. It is the nature of existence. Each of us lives within the boundaries of our own inner world, our own field of awareness. No one, no matter how close, can ever fully enter it. Even in love, there is a wall made of consciousness. You can reach across it with your words, your touch, your understanding, but you will always feel the invisible glass between you and the other. Transparent, yet impenetrable. Pause for a moment and feel this truth in your own life. Remember someone you have loved deeply, selflessly. You've tried to show them who you are, to give them everything you feel. But even then, there were moments when they looked at you and did not truly see you. When you spoke, and your words did not land where they were meant to. When your pain or joy could not be mirrored back with the same depth. This is not rejection. It is the quiet tragedy of being human. Carl Jung explored this idea in his late writings, especially in The Undiscovered Self. He wrote, "The individual is not only a single, separate being, but also, by nature, a social being. As a separate being, he is absolutely alone. And the more conscious he becomes of his own nature, the more this aloneness reveals itself. To become conscious, to wake up, is to feel the wall between worlds. The more aware you are, the more clearly you sense that others cannot see the world exactly as you do. It is like standing at night on opposite sides of a river. You can see each other. You can wave. You can call across the water. You can even throw messages in bottles, your stories, your feelings, your dreams. But no matter how strong the current of connection, your feet still rest on separate banks. For empaths, this realization is especially painful. You have spent your life crossing emotional distances, tuning yourself to others' moods and needs, believing that deep understanding can bridge any gap. You have built your sense of worth on your ability to feel what others feel, and now you are asked to accept the unbearable, that no matter how much you care, you will never fully know another soul, nor will they ever fully know you. There is a kind of existential sorrow in this, not despair, but a soft, aching recognition. Jung did not see this as a flaw in human nature. He saw it as a law of consciousness. Every psyche is its own cosmos, vast and self-contained. And like galaxies, we may come close, our gravitational fields may intertwine, but we never merge entirely. He wrote in Mysterium Conjunctionis, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." Transformation, yes. But fusion? Never. Because to truly merge with another, one of you would have to disappear. And love, Jung believed, was never meant to erase, only to illuminate. So tonight, if you feel that distance, even with the one you love most, let yourself feel it fully. Do not run from it. It is not proof that something is wrong. It is proof that you exist. The gap between souls is not a punishment. It is the sacred boundary that keeps each consciousness unique. It is what makes your inner world yours alone. Your dreams, your fears, your strange, beautiful way of seeing. Imagine again the two souls standing on opposite banks of the river. The night is quiet. The moonlight rests gently on the water between them. They do not try to cross. They simply stand there, each holding a lantern, and the light from both sides meets in the middle, shimmering across the current. That light, that meeting across the gap, is connection. Imperfect, incomplete, but real. Jung understood this paradox deeply. He wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no one around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." And yet, he believed this loneliness was necessary, because only in solitude can you meet your own soul fully, without translation, without compromise. This is where the beauty of consciousness lies, in its separateness. Without that distance, there would be no self to love, no other to reach for. Still, when the night grows quiet and you feel that unbridgeable gap, it can hurt. It can make you wonder if love is ever enough. But perhaps love was never meant to fill the gap, only to light it. So breathe, feel the ache of being known only in part, and let it soften you. This is not the end of intimacy. It is its beginning. Because when you stop trying to merge completely, you start to truly see the other as they are, not as your mirror, not as your reflection, but as their own mystery. Jung often said that true relationship begins when two people stand apart, yet turn toward each other with full awareness. He called this the union of opposites, a connection that honors difference, not denial. It takes maturity to love this way, to say, "I cannot fully understand you, but I will stay close anyway." It is the love that doesn't demand perfect empathy, but offers presence. The love that knows how to say, "I see the wall, and still I reach across, and maybe that is enough." Because the more awake you become, the lonelier the path appears, but also the more beautiful. In the stillness of that realization, you find a quiet truth. Loneliness is not the absence of love, but the invitation to love more consciously. So tonight, let that understanding settle softly in your chest. You stand on your side of the river, they stand on theirs, and between you, the moonlight, the water, and the silence that holds you both. You are separate, yes, but you are also connected in the only way that truly matters. Through the fragile, shimmering bridge of awareness itself. When you finally see the gap, when you feel, not just understand, that no one can ever fully cross into your inner world, something inside you grows quiet. Too quiet. At first, this silence feels sacred. After all, you've spent years trying to be understood, bending yourself into shapes that others could hold, searching for mirrors in faces that could never truly reflect you. Now, standing on your side of the river, you realize maybe solitude is safer. Maybe it's better to stop reaching. You start to believe, if no one can understand me, why stay open? This is the beginning of what Carl Jung called psychic withdrawal, a slow, subtle turning away from life. Not physical isolation, but psychological retreat. The heart closes its doors, one hinge at a time. The mind begins to whisper, why risk it? And the soul, tired of misunderstanding, begins to dim its light just to stop hurting. It doesn't happen all at once. It begins quietly, with the decision to stop sharing the parts of yourself that go unseen, with the choice to nod instead of speak, to say, I'm fine, when you're not, to listen to others' stories while tucking yours deeper into silence. The world still sees you. You still function. But inside, the air starts to thin. Jung warned that this withdrawal is not peace. It is psychic death. In The Archetypes and the Collective Unconscious, he wrote, the soul demands participation. Without relation, it falls ill. The soul, by its nature, is relational. It needs contact, reflection, exchange, even if imperfect. When we withdraw completely, we starve it of nourishment. Imagine a person sitting alone in a dim room. The curtains are drawn, but a thin line of light seeps through the crack between them. They sit there day after day, believing the light outside has nothing left to offer. The air inside feels safe, controlled, predictable, but also stale. That is what psychic withdrawal feels like. You convince yourself you are protecting your sensitivity, your empathy, your depth. You tell yourself you are conserving your energy. But in truth, you are building walls against the very life that could heal you. Jung saw this again and again in his patients, especially those with rich inner worlds. They would come to him after years of giving too much, understanding too deeply, and receiving too little. When they finally reached a breaking point, they withdrew completely. They stopped seeking intimacy, stopped expressing emotion, stopped risking vulnerability. And while they believed they had found calm, Jung saw something else, a quiet collapse of vitality. He wrote, to shut off the possibility of being affected by life is to shut off the possibility of being transformed by it. In other words, to stop feeling is not safety. It is an early death. Take a slow breath here. Let that settle. You might recognize this pattern in yourself, that impulse to pull back from connection when it starts to hurt. That small, invisible retreat you perform when disappointment becomes too familiar. You begin to build a fortress of self-sufficiency, convincing yourself you do not need anyone. But that fortress soon becomes a tomb. Jung would remind you, the walls that protect you also imprison you. He compared the psyche to a house with many rooms, some bright, some dark, some filled with dust. When you close all the doors to avoid pain, you also seal off the rooms where joy, inspiration, and meaning live. So, what do you do when the temptation to withdraw comes? When life feels too sharp, too indifferent, too unreachable? You begin by doing something paradoxical. You turn inward, but not to hide. You turn inward to keep the fire alive. You remember the truth that Jung discovered in his own darkest hours. The sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. That light is not found through isolation. It is found through awareness, through staying conscious even when you want to sleep through the pain. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine that dim room again, the one with the curtains drawn and the single crack of light. See yourself sitting there, weary, withdrawn, convinced that safety lies in stillness. And then imagine standing up, slowly, quietly. You walk toward the window and pull the curtain back just an inch. The light is soft, not harsh. It touches your face gently, and for the first time in a long time, you feel warmth. That warmth is life calling you back. You do not need to throw the windows open or shout into the world. Just allow a little more light to enter. A single honest conversation. A walk outside where the air touches your skin. A quiet journal entry that begins with the words, "I'm still here," because you are. The temptation to withdraw is, at its core, a longing for safety. But true safety, Jung believed, does not come from closing off the world. It comes from building an inner structure strong enough to remain open in it. He wrote, "The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity." The something new he spoke of can be as simple as this: staying open one more day. Every time you choose openness, even in small ways, you affirm your aliveness. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it will sometimes disappoint you again. But as Jung taught, the soul's purpose is not comfort. It is expansion. You expand by remaining available to life, to its beauty and its pain, its connections and its distance. You expand by refusing to harden. So, if you have been sitting in that inner room for too long, if you have been mistaking numbness for peace, let this be your gentle reminder. Closing is not safety. It is only early death. You are not meant to live behind the glass. You are meant to stand at the window, eyes open, heart beating, even if no one fully understands what you see. Jung once said, "No tree can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." That means your darkness, your withdrawal, your pain is not an end. It is a depth from which your next growth begins. Take one last breath. Feel the air move through you. Proof that you are still participating in life, that the world still touches you. You do not need to force yourself to shine. Just keep the windows slightly open. Let the light find you. Because even when no one fully understands your inner world, life still calls your name. Softly, persistently, like sunlight seeping through the smallest crack. And if you listen closely, you will hear it. Come back. The world is still here. So are you. And then, after the long season of silence, after the temptation to withdraw has softened into quiet awareness, something begins to change inside you. The ache that once demanded escape starts to ease. You realize you are not as broken as you thought. You are simply learning how to live with paradox. Because this is the heart of Carl Jung's third survival protocol, acceptance of the paradox. Jung believed that psychological maturity is not about resolving contradictions, but about holding them fully, consciously, and without fear. He wrote in Mysterium Conjunctionis, "The paradox is one of our most valued spiritual possessions. Only the paradox comes anywhere near to comprehending the fullness of life. To live is to hold both truth and limitation, both closeness and distance, both connection and aloneness." You begin to see this when the pain of isolation no longer pushes you to hide, but invites you to understand. You start to recognize that the gap between souls, the one that once felt unbearable, is not an obstacle to love. It is part of love itself. The river between you and others remains, yes, but the current no longer frightens you, because now you see that connection does not require crossing. It requires presence. Connection is real even when the gap remains. Imagine two people standing on opposite banks under the night sky. The moon rises above them, casting its reflection on the same surface of water. They cannot touch, but they share the same light. Their eyes meet across the shimmering surface, and in that silent recognition, something sacred happens. That is love within paradox, the acceptance that closeness and distance coexist. You cannot live without both. To deny the distance is illusion. To deny the connection is despair. So you stand in the middle of both truths and let them breathe together. This is what Jung called individuation, becoming whole without erasing difference. The paradox becomes your teacher. You are alone, and yet you are not. You are separate, and yet deeply connected to the human current that moves through everything. The mind wants simplicity. It wants answers. It wants to say, either I am understood or I am not. Either I belong or I do not. But the psyche lives in the tension of opposites. It grows by holding what seems impossible. Take a breath now. Feel the quiet stretch between inhaling and exhaling. The small pause where both exist together. That pause is the paradox made visible. Fullness within stillness, solitude within connection. Jung wrote, "The greatest and most important problems in life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown." This is what outgrowing looks like. You stop trying to fix the space between yourself and others. You stop trying to make understanding perfect. You stop trying to erase the loneliness that is part of being human. Instead, you begin to move with it as though it were a tide, not a wall. You learn to sit beside your solitude without fear, to pour yourself tea in the evening and feel the quiet as companionship, not absence. Jung called this self-companionship, the art of becoming a good friend to your own soul. Be good company for yourself tonight. It sounds simple, almost too gentle to matter. But this act of being kind to your own inner life is revolutionary, because most of your pain was never about being alone. It was about abandoning yourself while trying to be understood by others. Now, instead of searching for perfect reflection in someone else's eyes, you offer it to yourself. You look inward and say, "I see you." You listen to your own thoughts with the same patience you once reserved for others. You comfort yourself the way you've comforted everyone else. You stop demanding that someone else complete you, because you realize you are already whole. In psychological types, Jung wrote, "Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. Integration means accepting the opposites within you, the part that longs for connection and the part that loves solitude, the part that feels fragile and the part that endures. You begin to notice how peace arrives quietly when you stop fighting for certainty. When you stop asking whether anyone will ever fully understand you, and start marveling at the miracle that anyone understands you at all, even a little. Because even partial understanding is sacred. Even imperfect connection is real. And once you see that, you begin to love differently, not with desperation, but with awareness. You no longer demand that others complete you. You meet them where they are, knowing that both of you are travelers on parallel paths, walking side by side for a while beneath the same moonlight. That is enough. Let that idea sink in. Enough. Enough to share a moment. Enough to be seen halfway. Enough to love without needing to merge. You are not here to dissolve into another. You are here to remain yourself and still open your heart. So tonight, as you lie down, let this paradox cradle you. Feel your breath rising and falling like waves against both shores. There is no need to force harmony. It already exists in the rhythm of your breathing, in the space between thoughts, in the moonlight that touches both sides of the river. You are both connected and free. You're both known and mysterious. You are both alone and accompanied. Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. A transformation is not fusion, it is expansion. You remain who you are, but wider, deeper, more alive. This is the beauty of paradox. The opposites no longer fight, they dance. And as you rest in that dance, peace begins to arrive, not as an answer, but as a feeling, a soft clarity that says, you will never be fully understood, but you can be fully seen by you." Let those words settle into the space of your breath. Let them become your lullaby. Because the moment you stop trying to resolve the paradox and simply live within it, you return home, to yourself, to life, to the quiet, luminous mystery that holds you even now. And as the night deepens, you finally understand what Jung meant when he said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Tonight, you are choosing to become whole, not by crossing the river, but by learning to love its reflection. So rest now. Look up at the same moon that others see from their side. Feel its light on your face. You are not alone. You are simply learning to see yourself clearly, kindly, completely at last. When you finally learn to live within the paradox, to accept both your aloneness and your connection, something begins to settle deep inside. The restless search for perfect understanding fades. The ache for complete reciprocity softens. What once felt like loss now feels like transformation. You begin to see that every collapse, every heartbreak, every silent night of self-questioning was not the end. It was the fire. And though the flames burned fiercely, they did not destroy you. They tempered you. They shaped something within you that could never have been born without the heat. Jung called this kind of transformation the opus contra naturam, the work that goes against nature. The soul does not grow through comfort, it grows through friction, through being broken open and finding something inside that still chooses to love. Think of all the deaths you've endured, not physical, but inner deaths, the ones that changed your shape from the inside out. The first was the death of illusion, when you finally saw that empathy is not always reciprocated, that love does not guarantee understanding. It was the moment you realized that not everyone feels as deeply as you do, and no amount of giving could make them. That death was quiet but shattering, the end of innocence. The second was the death of persona, when you recognized how much of yourself had been built for others. The smile that hid exhaustion, the kindness that cost too much, the calm that wasn't peace. When those masks fell away, you were left exposed, raw, uncertain. That was the death of identity, the loss of the self you performed. And the third was the death of idealism, when you saw the unbridgeable gap between souls and understood that perfect harmony is impossible, that even in love there is distance, that to exist as a conscious being is to remain partially alone. 3 deaths, 3 initiations, and yet through every death something more enduring was born. You did not become hardened, you became softened, but in the way that steel is softened by fire, flexible, stronger, more alive. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of tempered empathy. Empathy that has passed through the furnace of experience, empathy that knows both its limits and its power. It is empathy that no longer depletes you because it is no longer naive. In The Development of Personality, Jung wrote, "The greatest burden the conscious personality can bear is the unconscious demand that all relationships be equal in depth and reciprocity." You learned to release that burden. You stopped expecting others to meet you where they cannot. And in doing so, you stopped abandoning yourself. That shift from self-erasure to self-honoring is what makes this empathy tempered. It feels deeply, but it also discerns. It gives, but not everywhere. It loves, but not at the expense of truth. You have become, in Jung's words, a wounded healer. Someone who has been hurt, but who now understands pain as a doorway to wisdom. You no longer rush to fix what is broken in others. You listen. You understand that healing is not about control, but about presence. Take a moment to breathe. Let that truth rise and fall with your chest. You have walked through all 3 deaths, and you are still here. You have learned that endings are not final. They are invitations. Each time something in you died, something quieter, wiser, more grounded was born. There is gratitude now, not for the suffering itself, but for what it revealed. Jung once said, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." He was not glorifying suffering. He was describing reality, that awareness demands loss. That to see clearly is to let go of illusions that once kept you safe. You have let go of many things. You have lost people who could not meet you. You have lost identities that once defined you. You have lost the fantasy of perfect understanding. And yet, you have gained something infinitely greater, yourself. Not the self that pleases, or the self that hides, or the self that performs, but the self that simply is. The one that watches with calm eyes, feels deeply without drowning, gives without losing its shape. That is the gift of the fire. It burns away what is false so that what is true can breathe. Think of it this way. When gold is refined, it is not destroyed by heat. The fire only removes the impurities that keep it from shining. The same is true for you. Everything you thought was breaking you was actually refining you. And now, as the flames recede, what remains is clarity, not the sharp clarity of intellect, but the soft clarity of acceptance. You no longer need every answer. You no longer chase closure in every wound. You trust the slow alchemy of time. This is the peace that follows transformation, the exhale after the storm. You start to see the world differently. The same people who once triggered your exhaustion now evoke compassion, not pity. You understand that everyone is carrying their own paradoxes, their own unseen battles. You stop judging their blindness because you remember your own. Your empathy becomes quieter, less about fixing, more about witnessing, less about saving, more about being present. Jung wrote in The Psychology of the Transference, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." That is what you have done. You walked through the darkness, not around it, and came out luminous. And now, as you breathe in this calmer air, you realize something profound. You no longer fear the fire. You trust it. You know it will come again, in new forms, new challenges, new losses. But you also know you will survive it. Because the fire is not your enemy, it is your teacher. Every time you are burned, you return softer, humbler, more human. That is what makes empathy powerful. It is not your sensitivity that makes you strong. It is your resilience. The ability to remain open in a world that has disappointed you 1,000 times, to keep your heart alive even when it aches. That is grace. So tonight, as you rest, remember this. Every scar on your soul is proof that you loved, that you risked, that you grew. Each one is a mark of participation in life itself. Let that bring you peace. Because in the end, the fire did not destroy you. It revealed you. And if you listen closely, you can still hear Jung's wisdom echoing softly through the ashes. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. You have become that, not despite the fire, but because of it. Now breathe. Feel the warmth still lingering within you. This is the fire that softened you, the fire that did not end you, but made you whole. And yet, no understanding of transformation would be complete without the man who lived it most completely. For Carl Jung himself walked through a darkness so deep, so consuming, that it almost destroyed him. And yet, it became the very fire from which his greatest wisdom was born. After parting ways with Sigmund Freud in 1913, Jung entered what he later called his confrontation with the unconscious. It was not an academic experiment. It was a descent, raw, unfiltered, and terrifying. The mentor he once trusted had become a stranger, and the intellectual structures he had built began to crumble. He described it as a period when the foundations of the world seemed to have given way. He withdrew from teaching, from public life, from certainty itself. And in that quiet chaos, the real journey began. Imagine him, a man in his late 30s, standing alone on the edge of Lake Zurich. The world around him serene, the sky reflected in still water, but inside, everything storming. He looks down and sees his reflection trembling in the ripples, not as a face, but as a shadow, shifting, unsteady, alive. He later wrote, "I was meeting the unknown within." Every evening, Jung would walk along that lake or sit at his desk, listening, not to the world outside, but to the voices rising from within. Images, dreams, figures that spoke in riddles and symbols. What began as fear soon became dialogue. He was not descending into madness. He was descending into meaning. But in the beginning, it did not feel that way. He dreamt of floods sweeping across Europe, of rivers of blood, of gods both ancient and new, colliding in chaos. He feared he was losing his mind, and yet, even in the terror, he made a choice that defined the rest of his life. He decided not to flee the darkness. In memories, dreams, reflections, Jung recalled, "I had to let myself plummet down into the depths. I had to find out what secret it wanted to reveal to me." So he surrendered to it, not blindly, but consciously. He gave the unconscious a voice, a stage, a canvas. At his desk, he opened a red leather-bound journal. Inside, he began to paint, write, and record the visions that came to him in dreams and waking images. Over the next 16 years, that journal would become the Red Book, his private masterpiece, the record of a man walking the line between sanity and revelation. Page after page, he documented his inner world, the descent into the underworld, the encounter with his shadow, the emergence of divine figures that represented archetypes of the collective unconscious. He did not reject them or explain them away. He spoke to them. He argued. He listened. He later wrote, "To confront a person with his shadow is to show him his own light." And in those long, solitary years, Jung learned that truth firsthand. The process nearly broke him. There were nights he felt completely unmoored, standing on the threshold between dream and waking, not knowing which world he belonged to. He confessed, "It seemed as though I was being menaced by a psychosis, but I held fast." And that was the key. He held fast. He survived not by suppressing his darkness, but by staying awake within it. He learned to observe his inner chaos the way one might observe a storm from inside a lighthouse, present, terrified, but still watching. Through that practice, he discovered something timeless, that the unconscious, once feared, could become a guide, that within our greatest breakdowns lie the seeds of our transformation. In one of the most haunting passages of the Red Book, Jung wrote, "The way is within us, but not in gods, nor in teachings, nor in laws. Within us is the way, the truth, and the life." It was during this period that his greatest ideas were born. The concept of the self, the shadow, the anima and animus, and the process of individuation. All of them came not from theory, but from direct experience. He was living his own philosophy, the descent into the unconscious, the confrontation with the unknown, and the eventual reconciliation of opposites. He described this process as the work of the soul's night. Imagine him again, older now, still beside the lake. The air is colder, but the water calmer. He gazes at his reflection once more. The chaos has not vanished, but it no longer frightens him. His shadow and his light, once at war, now coexist, two halves of the same whole. He whispers to himself, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." That single sentence, quiet, resolute, carries the essence of his philosophy. Jung did not emerge from darkness unchanged. He emerged integrated. He did not heal in the way we often imagine healing. He did not erase his pain or find tidy closure. Instead, he learned to live alongside his complexity, to see his inner world not as something to be conquered, but as something to be in relationship with. And that is what the Red Book became. Not a diary of madness, but a record of reconciliation. A love letter to the psyche itself. In its pages, Jung painted mandalas, circular patterns representing the union of opposites, the wholeness of the self. He wrote dialogues with his soul, with ancient figures of wisdom and chaos alike. He allowed his imagination to speak its truth, even when that truth frightened him. He emerged from those years not as a man who had escaped the dark, but as one who had befriended it. He survived the darkness, not by escaping it, but by staying awake within it. And that is his lasting message to all who walk the same inner path. Do not fear the descent. Do not mistake the chaos within you for failure. The night, if you can remain conscious in it, becomes your teacher. Because when you dare to face your own unconscious, you discover that even in the deepest darkness, something in you remains luminous. A small flame that does not go out. Your awareness, your courage, your soul. Jung's night was long and his solitude immense. But from that night emerged one of the most profound insights in modern psychology. That the light you are seeking is not beyond the darkness, but born from it. And so tonight, if you find yourself standing at the edge of your own lake, staring at the reflection that trembles beneath the surface, remember his story. Remember that the water is not your enemy. It is your mirror. Look down. See yourself reflected there. Shadow and light, fear and wisdom. And whisper the same words Jung might have whispered to himself long ago on that silent shore. This, too, is me. Then breathe. The night is vast, but you are not lost. You are simply learning to stay awake in the dark. When Jung finally emerged from his long night beside the lake, when the chaos inside him softened into understanding, he did not call it healing. He called it initiation. The word means passage, a movement through death into deeper life. And perhaps that is what you too are experiencing. Not an ending, not a breaking, but a sacred transition into a more conscious version of yourself. In the quiet after the storm, Jung wrote to a patient who was struggling to make sense of her pain. You cannot save anyone. You can only light the path with your own example. Those words carry the essence of everything he learned in the darkness. No one can walk your path for you. No one can feel what you feel. But by surviving your own descent, by choosing to stay awake within it, you become a living light for others, still lost in theirs. That is what initiation really is. The discovery that your suffering is not meaningless. It is preparation. Jung believed that the psyche moves through death-like thresholds, moments when the old self dissolves so the new one can emerge. He called these moments psychic death, and he warned that they feel terrifying precisely because the ego believes it is dying. But what is truly dying is not you. It is who you thought you were. Every breaking point, every silence, every surrender is part of that sacred initiation. Think of it like this. The fire that once consumed you now becomes your warmth. The loneliness that once hollowed you now becomes your space for peace. The wounds that once closed you off now become the openings through which empathy flows. You are being initiated into a wider life, one that no longer demands certainty or perfection, but consciousness and compassion. Imagine the final scene of Jung's story, the same lake where he once stared into the depths, afraid of what he might find, now lies calm beneath the moonlight. The reflection is still there, shadow and light intertwined, but now he no longer fears it. He sits quietly, breathing in the night, knowing that both worlds, the conscious and the unconscious, are part of the same whole. He has survived the darkness, not by escaping it, but by staying awake within it. And that is the invitation waiting for you now. When you feel lost, it does not mean you are failing. It means you are standing at the threshold of your next becoming. Every time something in you falls apart, it is making room for something truer. Jung once said, "In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order." You may not see that order yet, but it is forming quietly beneath the surface of your life. Like light gathering under the horizon before dawn. You are not dying. You are being initiated. Let those words settle gently into your breath. Initiation is not glamorous. It happens in ordinary moments, in the quiet decision to face what hurts instead of running from it, in the willingness to let go of what no longer fits, in the simple courage of waking up one more day and choosing awareness over numbness. It is not the heroic leap that changes you. It is the small, conscious steps, the ones that say, "I am still here." Because that is the true mark of transformation, not perfection, but presence. Every person who has walked this path before you, every wounded healer, every seeker, every soul who has faced the mirror and not turned away, has walked through the same fire. They too believed they were dying. They too feared they would not make it through. And yet, they did. And now it is your turn. Take a slow breath in. Feel the air enter your chest, as if the universe itself were breathing through you. Exhale gently. Let go of everything that no longer belongs. This is your initiation, not a ceremony of triumph, but of trust. Trust that you are part of something vast and intelligent, something that uses even your pain to bring you closer to truth. Look back for a moment. Every collapse you've survived, every loss you've endured, has shaped you into someone softer, wiser, and more real. You have walked through illusion, ego, and despair, and each time you emerged more whole. Now, as you sit in this quiet space, you may notice a faint glow, not bright, not blinding, but steady. It is the light you carry after initiation. The kind of light that does not shout, but hums quietly from within, born from the places you once feared to enter. And just like Jung by the lake, you understand now that the darkness was never trying to destroy you. It was trying to introduce you to yourself. Breathe again. You do not have to fix anything tonight. You do not have to prove you've healed. All you need to do is rest and let the wisdom of your journey settle into your bones. The light you found inside does not need to be loud. It is enough that it exists. Tonight, you might whisper to yourself, "I am not dying. I am being initiated." Let the words wrap around you like a blanket. Feel their weight, their truth, their quiet promise. Outside, the world continues. The moon moves slowly across the water, its light spreading in a thin, trembling line. You watch it ripple and fade. The night grows softer, wider. The air is cool and forgiving. And as you close your eyes, you realize this too is initiation. The moment when you surrender control and allow the universe to hold you. You have carried your light through fire. You have faced the mirror and stayed. You have walked through shadow and found grace. Now it is time to rest. As Jung might say, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And tonight, you are living that privilege simply by breathing, by being, by allowing yourself to exist without defense. So let the mind rest. Let the heart loosen its grip. The night will hold you now. Sleep, not as someone who has been defeated, but as someone who has crossed the threshold. Sleep as the universe rests within itself. whole, infinite, and at peace. And if you wake before morning, let the first thought that greets you be this: you were never dying, you were only becoming. And now, after walking through all 4 thresholds, through the silence, the masks, the loneliness, and the fire, you arrive here, in the stillness of your own being. Nothing left to chase, nothing left to fix, just breath and the quiet rhythm of your own heart. You have seen what it means to break and to rebuild, to lose yourself and then to meet yourself again. You have learned that empathy is not weakness. It is strength refined by suffering, light softened by shadow. You have walked with Jung through the long night of the soul, and you have discovered what he discovered: that awakening is not about escaping the darkness, but learning to breathe inside it. There is no final arrival, only this: the gentle return to presence, to simplicity, to peace. Every silence you faced has become part of your song. Every scar a reminder that you have lived deeply and loved bravely. So rest now. Let the mind loosen its grip. Let the body grow heavy, as if sinking into the arms of the earth. The world outside will continue spinning, but for this moment, you are safe. The night holds you. The stars keep watch. The universe breathes with you. You are not alone. You are becoming. Close your eyes, dear soul. Let go of the day and sleep gently, deeply, peacefully. Good night.